Hello viewers, welcome back to my channel Legal Decipher. In the previous video, we had talked about Chapter 21 of the Code of Criminal Procedure 1973. If you have not seen that video, you can go and check it. The link is in the description below. Today, we are going to talk about Chapter 21A of the Code of Criminal Procedure. We'll go through the chapter and try to understand how the Criminal Procedure Code is followed and how the criminal courts work. So if you are new here, you can like and subscribe to my channel to get the video notifications. So let's get started. So today we are going to talk about chapter 21A, which talks about plea bargaining. So this is an amendment chapter. It was amended later and inserted into the Code of Criminal Procedure. Now section 265A talks about application of the chapter. So where will this chapter be applied? The first section talks about such application. It says that this chapter shall apply in respect of an accused against whom the report has been forwarded by the officer in charge of a police station under section 173, alleging therein that an offence appears to have been committed by him other than an offence for which the punishment of death or of imprisonment for life or imprisonment for a term exceeding 7 years has been provided under this law for the time being in force. So where a police officer submits his report before a magistrate in regard to an accused person, that this accused person has committed an offence that is punishable under any law for a term of imprisonment below 7 years. So any punishment is provided, but that punishment shall not be exceeding 7 years. That is the minimum criteria. And a magistrate has taken cognizance of an offence of complaint other than an offence for which the punishment of death, imprisonment for life, or a term exceeding 7 years has been provided under the law for the time being in force, and after examining complainant and witnesses under section 200 issued the process under section 204. So the magistrate has taken up a complaint, examined the complainant and the witnesses under section 200 and issued a process under section 204 for any offence that does not attract the punishment of death or life imprisonment or a punishment of imprisonment exceeding 7 years. So the punishment of such offence shall always be imprisonment for a term that is below 7 years. In those cases, this chapter will apply, but does not apply where the offence affects the socio-economic condition of the country or has been committed against a woman or a child below the age of 14 years. So this chapter will not apply to the offences that affects socio-economic conditions of the country, or if the offender is a woman, or if the offender is a child who is below the age of 14 years. In all these three cases, this chapter will not apply. Now for the purposes of subsection 1, the central government shall by notification determine the offences under the law for the time being in force, which shall be offences affecting the socio-economic condition of the country. So what are the offences that affects the socio-economic condition of the country? So that will be prescribed by the central government by notification. Now section 265B says that an application for such plea bargaining shall be made by the accused. So it says that a person accused of an offence may file an application for plea bargaining in the court in which such offence is pending for trial. So the procedure for plea bargaining starts with an application on behalf of the accused. And what shall that application contain? The substance of that application shall be that it shall contain a brief description of the case, and such application shall be filed including the offence to which the case relates, and shall be accompanied by an affidavit sworn by the accused. So the accused will have to file application with an affidavit. What shall that affidavit contain? That affidavit shall clear out this fact that the application was preferred for by the accused voluntarily. So he had voluntarily applied for such plea bargaining. And after understanding the nature and extent of the punishment that is provided under the law, the court will decide whether the accused was previously been convicted by a court in a case in which he had charged with the same offense or not. Now the court will find out whether the accused person was charged with the same offense in a previous suit or not, and then only such plea bargaining will be allowed. Now, after receiving such application, the court shall issue notice to the public prosecutor or the complainant of the case and to the accused to appear on the date fixed for the case. So, when an application for plea bargaining has been approached before a court, then such court will fix a date for such hearing of that application, and on that particular date either the public prosecutor or the complainant and on the other hand the accused both will have to appear before the court. Now when the public prosecutor or the complainant and the accused on the fixed date appears before the court shall examine the accused in camera, where the other party in the case shall not be present. So only the accused will be present and the complainant or the public prosecutor, whoever may be, he will be present. If any other accused are also tagged in that same case, then they will not be there during the time of hearing of such plea bargaining application. So that proceedings will always be held in camera. To satisfy itself, that means the court will satisfy itself that the accused has filed the application voluntarily, and where the court is satisfied that it was actually filed by the accused voluntarily, then it shall provide time to both the public prosecutor or the complainant, as the case may be, and the accused. So both the parties will be provided some time for the mutual and satisfactory disposition of the case, which may include giving the victim compensation and other expenses during the case and thereafter fix a date for further hearing. So the plea bargaining application will be heard, and then after, if the court is satisfied that it was voluntarily made by the accused, then the complainant and the accused, both party, will be given some time to settle the matter mutually or satisfactorily and dispose of the case, which will also include giving compensation or other expenses to the victim. And when all such procedures are complied with, then the next date will be fixed for further hearing of the case. Now, where the court finds that the application has been filed involuntarily, which means the accused did not voluntarily file that application, or he has been previously convicted in a court, then it shall proceed further in accordance with the provisions of this code from the stage of such application that has been filed under subsection 1. So the entire application will be rejected from where it entered into the plea bargaining stage. So that stage of the case will be restored, and thereafter the case will flow as it should. Now let's move on to section 265C. It talks about guidelines for mutually satisfactory disposition. So the mutual and satisfactory disposition that we learned about in the previous section has to be done in regard to a particular guideline that is set out in 265C. It says, in working out a mutually satisfactory disposition under clause A of subsection 4 of section 265B, the court shall follow the following procedure. What will be the procedure? The court shall, in a case instituted on a police report, issue a notice to the public prosecutor, so the first, and the police officer who has investigated that case. Also, the accused and the victim of the case will also be issued a notice to participate in the meeting to work out a satisfactory disposition of the case. So we came to understand that there are 4 people who will be issued notice to appear before the court and participate in that meeting to work out a satisfactory disposition of the case. Those people are the public prosecutor, the police officer who has investigated the case, the accused, and the victim of the case. So all these four persons will be issued notice. Now, provided that throughout such process of working out a satisfactory disposition of the case, it shall be the duty of the court to ensure that the entire process is completed voluntarily by the parties participating in the meeting. So all the parties will have to voluntarily participate in such meeting. Otherwise, the court cannot work out such process. Now, provided further that the accused, if he so desires, may participate in such meeting with his pleader engaged in that case. So the advocate on behalf of the accused will also participate in the case. And clause B says that if such case is instituted otherwise than on a police report, then the court shall issue notice to the accused and the victim of the case to participate in a meeting to work out a satisfactory disposition of the case. So say for example, if the case was not instituted on a police report, then the public prosecutor and the police officer will not be engaged in that particular case. So there will be two parties that will be engaged in such case, that is the victim and the accused. So the court will only send notice to those two persons. Now, provided that it shall be the duty of the court to ensure that the parties have voluntarily participated in the meeting, and the accused may in this case as well make his pleader engaged in the case to participate in such meeting. So the process of participating in the meeting voluntarily and the power of the accused to engage his pleader in such meeting are same and identical in both the clauses. Now section 265D talks about report of the mutually satisfactory disposition to be submitted before the court. So we need to understand that the outcome of such meeting for the satisfactory mutual disposition of the case will be a report that is to be submitted before the court. So where in a meeting under section 265C a satisfactory disposition of the case has been worked out. So both the parties were successful in working out a satisfactory disposition of the case. Then after that, the court shall prepare a report of such disposition which shall be signed by the presiding officer of the court and all the other persons who participated in the meetings. So the magistrate and all the other parties who participated in the meeting, all those people will sign into that report. And if such disposition has not been worked out, then the court shall record such observation and proceed further in accordance to the provisions of this court. So if there is no conclusion that was made out of such meeting, then it is obvious that there will be no such report. Then the court will record such observation that such meeting had no outcome and he will proceed with the case further. Now section 265E talks about the disposal of the case where a satisfactory disposition of the case has been worked out under 265D. Then after such disposition has been made, the court shall dispose the case in the following manner. What is that manner? The court shall award the compensation to the victim in accordance with the disposition and hear the parties on the quantum of the punishment, releasing the accused on probation if good conduct is maintained and after admonition under section 360 or for dealing with the accused under the provisions of Probation of Offenders Act or any other law for the timing in force. The following procedures specified in the succeeding clauses for imposing the punishment on the accused will be followed. So what will the court do after making such report? The court will award a compensation to the victim, as we had read previously in this chapter, that a compensation is always awarded to the victim if the case is disposed in such way. And the court will also hear the parties, both the parties, on the quantum of the punishment, as to what will be the punishment. And if there is no such punishment that is to be awarded, then he may release the accused on probation if such offender promises of good conduct, or after admonition under section 360 for dealing with the accused under the provisions of Probation of Offenders Act. So the Probation of Offenders Act will also be applicable in this case if the accused shows good conduct and is released on probation for such good conduct. And after that, the following procedures will be followed. What are those procedures? It says that after hearing the parties, the court is of the view that section 360 of Probation of Offenders Act will apply. Then he may release the accused on probation or provide the benefit of any other law as the case may be. And after hearing the parties, if the court finds out that a minimum punishment has to be provided under the law for the offence committed by the accused, then it may also sentence the accused of half of such minimum punishment. So say for example, the punishment attracts imprisonment of any term between 3 to 7 years, because the punishment has to be below 7 years. Now if the punishment is recorded as a imprisonment that may be of any term that is between 3 years to 7 years, then the minimum punishment is 3 years. If the court finds necessary, then the court will award half of such minimum punishment. So the minimum punishment was 3 years and the half of such punishment is 1.5 years. So the court will punish such offender with 1.5 years of imprisonment. So that will be the procedure that is to be dealt with by the court. Now in such case, after hearing the parties, the court finds that the offence committed by the accused is not covered under clause B or clause C, then it may sentence the accused to 1/4 of the punishment provided or extendable as the case may be for such offence. So where the accused could not be released under the Probation of Offenders Act, or the nature of the offence is such that half of the minimum punishment could not be awarded, then in this kind of situation, that is a third kind of situation that we are talking about, then in this situation the court will award 1/4 of the punishment that is provided or extendable of the offence that is been committed by the accused. Now section 265F says that the judgment of the court shall be delivered in open court and the same shall be signed by the presiding officer of the court, just like any other judgment. Now 265G talks about finality of that judgment. So this judgment that is provided under 265G shall be final and no appeal shall be entertained against such order, but except the special leave petition that is filed under Article 136 and any writ petition that is filed under 226 and 227 of the Constitution shall be the only exceptions to this section. So where a special leave petition is sought under Article 136 or a writ petition is sought under 226 or 227, then in those cases that judgment can be challenged. In all the other cases there will be no further appeal and this judgment shall be final. Now section 265H talks about the power of the court in plea bargaining. The court shall have all the powers that are vested in it in respect of bail, trial of offences and other matters relating to the disposal of a case under this code of criminal procedure. The court that is hearing the plea bargaining shall have all such powers. Now section 265I talks about period of detention undergone by the accused to be set off against the sentence of imprisonment. So where the provisions of sections 428 shall apply for the setting off of the period of detention that is undergone by the accused against the sentence of imprisonment that is imposed under this chapter. So a period of detention has been imposed under this chapter as a sentence of imprisonment on the accused. Now if the accused has already undergone a detention, then that period of time will be set off. That means it will be balanced and the rest of the term will be applied. Now, section 265J talks about savings. It says that the provisions of this chapter shall have effect, notwithstanding anything inconsistent therewith, contained in any other provisions of this code, and nothing in such other provisions shall be construed to constrain the meaning of the provisions of this chapter. So this chapter will stand out, and without disturbing any other provisions under this code of criminal procedure, this chapter will have its application, and anything that is contained anywhere shall not either disturb the provisions that is recorded herein. So this chapter has a prominent usage that is saved here. Now the explanation says that the public prosecutor shall have the same meaning as we have already read under section 25 or under section 2 clause U. Now section 265K talks about statements of accused not to be used. So notwithstanding anything contained in any law for the time being in force, the statements or facts that are stated by an accused in an application for plea bargaining shall not be used for any other purpose except for the purposes of this chapter. So when the accused person has filed an application of plea bargaining before the court, then such application must have some substance. Now that substance will not be used for any other purpose except for the purpose of this chapter only. Now section 265L, that is the last section of this chapter, talks about non-application of the chapter. So nothing in this chapter shall apply to any juvenile or child as defined in section 2 clause K of the Juvenile Justice Care and Protection of Children Act 2000. So that's all in this video. If you like my videos, then don't forget to smash the like button and subscribe to my channel. Thank you so much for watching this video.